Hey folks, I want to talk a little bit about changing the fluids on your Harley Davidson, and specifically talk a little bit about the three holes, so-called. We're talking about engine oil, transmission, and primary chain case fluids. So first thing you want to do is make sure that you're selecting the proper fluids. It doesn't necessarily have to be Harley Davidson oil, but it should be rated for the machine. And SAE would be one example. Now, on the transmission and primary, I chose to go with the Harley Davidson Formula Plus because this works in both holes in the transmission and the primary chain case. So it's convenient for me. I don't have to look for two different types of fluids, and the spec calls for, I think on the, well, I've got it written here, transmission 3/4 of a quart, and the primary would be 1.5. So if you get 3 quarts, you got it covered. And total cost on that for me, for the Harley stuff, was about $39. For the oil, it's a different story. In my case, I just honed out the cylinders, put in new pistons and rings. So I did run some conventional oil through there for a short break-in period, and I'm gonna dump that oil today and just see if there's any big metal shavings or whatever. I am gonna convert over to synthetic. And in this case, I did not use the Harley fluid. I selected Mobil 1 V-Twin 2050. It's full synthetic, and I've used this on a lot of different machines. Not the V-Twin specifically or this weight, but this is rated for the Harley, and it's about $10 a quart. And I think the Harley fluids, you can get a package with 3 or 4 quarts of oil and the filter for about $70. And for me, the oil was about $10 a quart, so that's 40 plus another $12 for the oil filter. So I'm in it for $52. So that in itself is a savings. I did go with a Wix filter 51215 for my 97 Road King. So this is what I'm going to show you today, and I'll show you where the locations are for all of these fluids on the 97 Road King. Now, the savings, I would say, isn't so much in the fluids or the filter, so to speak. If you go with Harley versus just a Wix or Mobil 1 or Castrol or whatever it is, the real savings is in the labor. If you're taking your machine into the Harley dealer or a motorcycle shop, they are going to charge you anywhere from probably $100 an hour to $130 an hour. And I don't know what they charge this job for time, but I'm guessing it's probably going to be a couple hours for them on the books, which is $260, and multiply that over the number of oil changes that you do. Typically, once a year. If you're hardcore, you're going to change it a couple times a year. So anyway, add that up, do the math. $260 labor every time you change the oil, plus the cost of the fluids is going to really add up over the life of the motorcycle. So let's get to the oil change. Okay, so the engine is up to temp here, and here's my drain plug over here. I did go with a little bit deeper of a drain pan so I can catch all this oil in one shot. But first thing is loosen up that drain plug, and again, it is a 3/4 inch. And the trick is going to be getting the pan under there and getting this bolt out. Want to have your rags handy. Okay. And the reason I'm putting this in a clean drain pan is because I want to inspect the oil to see if there's any metal shavings or anything like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and let this drain all the way. You can see here the O-ring on my drain plug is pretty nasty, so I'm going to replace that as well. Okay, so the oil has pretty much stopped dripping there, and what you want to do is clean that surface before you put your drain plug back in with the new O-ring or crush washer or whatever it takes, and then torque it down to the right spec. I don't know what the torque spec is. I normally just do them by hand, but I will get that back in there. Okay, for the oil filter, you can see, as I said, I've just doing a break-in on this bike. I ended up going with an AC Delco filter, and on this bike, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense on draining this thing. I suppose you could, you know, put something up under there and drain it out this way. They may even make a drain catch for the filter, but it's just going to be a mess. So I'm going to try to just get this thing out and let it go where it goes. And you can see I've got my wrench on here. Just want to get this thing loose so I can possibly hand turn it. Okay, that looks like it's loose. And as I'm taking this thing off, I just want to try to keep it as upright as possible and prevent the oil from just going all over the place. But again, the way that this thing is sitting in here, it may not be possible. Okay, that wasn't too bad actually. Got a little bit of oil down in there. So here's the new Wix filter, 51215. Anytime you're replacing an oil filter on anything, you always want to put some oil on the O-ring. And it doesn't have to be a lot, just, you know, just evenly coat the surface of the O-ring and that'll be fine. The other thing is you want to clean the surface where the oil filter goes. I don't know if you can see it, but there's still some oil draining there, so I'll just continue to let that drain and until it stops dripping. Okay, I let this thing stop dripping, and I've got my new Wix filter in there. I hand tightened it the best I could, and I'm just gonna snug it up here with the wrench. Don't want to go super tight. That should be good right there. All right, and as I said, you know, some of that oil is going to drip down. You're just going to have to clean it, maybe use some brake cleaner or something, but everything is in my pan now. So I'm going to dump the majority of this pan out, and I want to take a look in there for metal shavings. This oil actually looks pretty black for just being in there for less than 100 miles. Just going to go slowly. If there is any metal shavings, they're going to settle to the bottom. Okay, so this is basically what I'm looking for, is metal shavings, and there is some debris in there, and that could possibly be some dirt or some other material. I see some bubbles. Best way to look at this is out in the sun. That looks like a piece of gasket material. I don't see anything crazy in here. I do not see any metal shavings, which is a good sign. Okay, I'm going to just take this out in the sun and see what we can see here. Again, I see some bubbles, and that's about it. I do not see any metal shavings. Perfect. Okay, lastly, I am going to just go ahead and dump in 3 quarts, and I've got my funnel here in the fill hole, and I will check the oil level. After I dump in 3 quarts, I may have to add a little bit more. Again, it calls for 3.5, 4. I've seen 3. So we'll just get this thing filled to the proper level. When it's cold, I'll run it, recheck it, and should be good to go. And this thing's pretty much a wrap. So that is how you change the oil on a 1997 Road King. Thanks for watching.